Hello and welcome back to our final in the journey in Radiohead's The Bends as we are at the final track, Street Spirit,
And what's
with,
the rest of it?
your brackets
Open
of
bracket,
fade
fade
out.
out, close bracket. Yeah, yeah.
I was just hoping that you were going to jump on that because I know how much you love a
I do,
bracket.
I do. Yeah. As we say, this is the final track for the Benz album, the first Radiohead album that we're going to go through, and we'll get to kind of our thoughts on the album after this, and we'll do this track first. But I was saying to you before we jumped on it, I'm kind of expecting you to have some glimmer of recognition when this one comes on, because I think it is one of their ultimately kind of well-known tracks, and I think you would have stumbled along it, or at least parts of it, somewhere along the line. So I think there will be some familiarity there for you.
And so this has been, one of those, when you said the title, I was like, I'm pretty sure I know that one.
Yeah.
And it being, what, 20 or 29 years now?
27? I don't know. Let's
Was
not do maths.
95.
Let's not embarrass ourselves with our math skills. Come on.
So
We're
shall we?
talkers, not mathers.
Exactly. So shall
Although
we
that's a bit of
get?
a lie. I'm a bit of a mather, so yeah, there was a lie there. We've got a video for this as well.
Oh, fancy.
Yeah. Well, you say fancy. Yeah, you might not like the video, but let's get our bracket on. Rows of houses all burn down on me. I can feel the hands touching me. All these things into position. All these things are one day swallow whole. Fade out again. Fade out. This much. And with that, we fade out.
We do. Yes, I do know this one. See all the video many times on
Yeah,
MTV2.
and I know that kind of black and white videos aren't necessarily distinctive, but I think sometimes black and white videos stay with you a little bit more because we are used to color videos more than anything else, aren't we? So yeah, often they kind of stay there.
Yeah. This is one of those songs on where my pre-notion of Radiohead being a bit dull comes from, because even like from when I first heard it, even to now, it still doesn't grab me. The riff in there is a nice riff, but it's that sort of, I think, because it never grabbed me in the first place. It's one of those of I like this riff, but I'd like it in another song. I'd like it doing something else. It's that bit of take that out and use it elsewhere and do something else with
Sorry.
it, sort of
I don't
thing.
know why in my head I just my mind totally snapped away to just you go take that out. I don't know why. Sorry.
But yeah, this is one of those ones where knowing Radiohead, the very little bits of Radiohead that I know, is where my sort of thought process on I don't really like them as a sort of coming in point is from. Um, After listening to the album as a whole and hearing other bits from it and hearing more of them than I ever had before, because I said that literally it'd be just the stuff that was on music channels and stuff, gives me a little bit more of a thing for for their craft and stuff and what they do. But I wouldn't be rushing to listen to the song again. I could go without hearing it for a while, because it as a song as a whole, it doesn't do anything for me.
I mean, I guess like there's a kind of discussion around like did it touch you? And I don't mean show me on the doll where they touched you. This one, even from first listen, especially, I'd say, if my memory isn't that brilliant, but I think if I could get in a time machine, go back and um, watch me listen to this album for the first time, I think this was one of the temp moments for me of where I fell in love with them more as a band, because this song really does do it for me. I I love the, as you say, like the riff, but I love the music full stop. I think the patient way it delivers, the patient way that it kind of builds up,
Mm,
is it's the sort of thing I really like. And I love what Tom York does vocally here. I love, certainly as we get closer to the end of the song, how he modulates the way that he delivers certain parts of the lyrics. It just, for me, it is catnip. I guess I'm just like, yeah, give me more of that, and lyrically. So go back to, and we'll do the album after this, and we'll kind of wrap on some of that. So this is the song where I've said all along, like I'm not naive. I can see why people lean into the depressive side. This song about um, depression, the the kind of hopelessness of the world we live in. Bearing in mind the hopelessness of the world we were living in back then, but I think some of this still very much kind of resonates now about where we really sit in the world. Do we affect anything? Like, are we just I don't know, pawns in a machine, like a
mm,
machine that doesn't really do anything or get you any joy or anything like that. And this is the song where I think people could really hang their hats on, going a bit depressing, aren't they? But this is the song on this album that I think has the most positive message. As in, I think it leans the heaviest into um, just the bleakness, the darkness, the bleakness, the darkness, the bleakness, the darkness, the bleakness, the darkness, until the last two sung lines. And I think that's where the hope and probably what they are trying to get across, primarily as a band, or certainly primarily as a band at this time, of going. But for as bleak as all this is, and for as bad as sometimes this can feel, um, there's something out there for you, and it's love.
Mm.
And I don't know, it just always spoke to me of kind of going, yeah, do you know what? How no matter how bad things may seem, may feel, may be, um, and this is why they were never a depressive band for me. This is the kind of flip side that they do of going. They talk about the world in a very honest way, or they talk about what's going on in their world in a very honest way. Um, but it's not just and give up. It
Yeah.
is no matter what you're going through now, there is something there for you. There is hope for you, and that hope being, as I say, like that the lean into this of going immerse yourself in love. So if you immerse yourself in love, then maybe that will get you through to the other side, because that is something that we can all get joy out of. And yeah, I do. I think this song. I think is again. I think it's a masterpiece. And yeah, yeah, but not for everyone, I guess.
Yeah. It's something I think with these as a whole. I think it's depends on how it hits you. I mean that's the thing. Because I said I can listen to that, and as I said, the guitar riff is fucking great. That arpeggio plucking in there is like, yes,
Yeah, yeah.
this is a really really good guitarist playing a really really well crafted riff. But I'm like, I would like that in a different song. Like,
What what
then go
what sort of
to
song would you want it in? Just for, I mean, I know that's a hard question, because I could,
yeah,
if that way you're kind of a songwriter and you'd be making albums. But I just, yeah, I
yeah.
just wonder, like, whether you've got a kind of framing mechanism you'd like it to kind of jump out of here and go into something else.
It's that thing is like I could see it as like an intro riff into a sort of mid 90s sort of punk song. So like an Offspring of Green Day or something like that, where you had that sort of as like an arpeggio into it and then
If that didn't
bounce.
come across, I want to reflect that that was pure disgust on my face that I just
I know.
showed. If that wasn't clear, I just want that on record.
Or into one of those sort of heavier Britpop stuff. So like a Terrorvision or Wild Hearts, the more rock of indie, and sort of start going into like you take that and then you sort of down tune it slightly and just chug it out, but still playing the same riff, but just like with a bit more distortion or just like do something like that with it is what I would do. But
See,
again,
whereas I
this
kind of, I guess there's the juxtaposition of it as well, of going, I like what they do with it. So I like that is almost, and I'm going to go high point, but that is almost the high point. And rather than going up into kind of rock or punk, as you say, it's more, that's the height, and it pairs it back down again. And
mm,
uh, I like, well, I like, I think it's kind of clear on here. That we're open to a lot of things, and there's lots of different styles of music that I do like, but sometimes I want this, sometimes I don't want it to go like punk or rocky or any other genre. I want it to stay in this kind of zone. I want it to be gentler, and I guess musically gentle, whilst the lyric, and even the vocals, I think are less gentle. I think they're more harrowing,
mm,
until, as I say, we get to kind of the more positive high note at the end. But yeah, I think like this is the, I go back to when we've done Maximum and the Hormone. One of the things I love about them is, man, they go everywhere, and I do like that. But sometimes I don't need it to go more pacey. I want it to be at this level. I want it to
mm.
be more. I'm going to say lackadaisical, but I think just calmer.
Yeah. But
And
you saying
again, to let
that,
the lyrics and the I guess the vocal performance breathe a bit. But when I'm saying all that, I really want to quickly pick up on. I'm spot on with you in the guitaring on this. I unfortunately for me, I kind of have the context of listening to everything and then other stuff. Johnny Greenwood, I think, is just an absolutely amazing musician, and there are certain points in this album where I think he he really started to shine into the musician that he ultimately becomes. And that's not to say he's not great here, but I
Mm.
think he's a magician at this point with music. And it is songs like this where I think I really started to notice him,
Mm.
not just the band, but then the individuals in the band.
Yeah. Though you sort of just as a sort of throwback to something that you said earlier, like where else it would go, and you saying it staying in that sort of gentle thing. 9 Inch Nails. If Trent used that guitar pattern in some of his sort of slower but slightly horrible sounding stuff that he was doing on Broken and Fixed and sort of around the downward spiral stuff that isn't the just full energy 200 beats per minute shit, but the slower stuff. I think that would sit nice in that as well as a thing.
It's
But
funny you mentioned them, like, and again, no direct comparison here, but I think there are some comparative points between Nine Inch Nails and Radiohead in what they try to do in trajectory, and
mm,
certainly I think in what Trent ultimately ends up doing, and I'll go back very specifically to Johnny Greenwood, but also with Tom York, like kind of where I guess their musical interests extend out to ultimately, and yeah, I do think. Um, I don't know. I think they're a good comparison piece whilst not producing the same music. But I quite like that they took their careers in certain directions, and I think it's directions that they maybe originally never thought they would go, but genuinely found great love of, and certainly like things like the kind of scoring movies and things like that.
mm.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, as I say, like for me, I wouldn't take this anywhere because it's perfect where it is. I think they've written a beautiful song that didn't need anything else, doesn't need anything taken away, doesn't need anything added for me. It is what it is, and that for me that what it is great.
So, shall we discuss the album as a whole?
Yeah, yeah,
So, going in, yes, I did have preconceptions of obviously knowing that this wasn't the indie album that Pablo Honey was,
yeah,
and it sort of knowing that obviously what I knew comes later than that was like, oh, it's going to be all that sort of dour nahness that I've heard and stuff, and that doesn't grab me. Other than this, Flake Plastic Trees and the one that was before it,
high and
High and
dry.
Dry, everything else has had something in there that's grabbed me. Would I say that I've loved everything else? No, but there's been bits of stuff that I can go, oh, I can see there's that there is something that connects in it some way with me. Um, Obviously, yes, I like them when they're heavier and more aggy. So yes, my favorite ones are Bones and Just because
But they
yes,
are, yeah, you are right. They do they go, the tempo comes up and kind of the guitar delivery comes up and the vocal
yeah,
delivery comes up, doesn't it? Like there's no disputing that there are moments in this album where and I guess like for a band, a guitar, let's go with rock band
yeah.
at this stage. Uh, you would expect that, wouldn't you? Like you're going to get different pacing in those songs. Yeah, I think, and some will resonate with you more. I mean, like as I said, I think probably for me it's the other end of the scale of the ones where they slow it down are probably the ones that resonate more with me. But not entirely because I do have a lot of love for especially Just, like
Mm.
I,
But it,
I, I, I,
it,
I still stand by what I said when we first went into this. This is still my least favorite Radiohead album. I listen to their albums a lot, so it's not like it's been a while since I listened to this one, but it's definitely the one I listen to the least. I think it's still a brilliant album for me, and I think it's I think the reason why I like it the least is purely because I like others more. And what a stupid way to say it, but that's the truth of it for me. It's not necessarily a harsh critique of this. I just like where they go on other albums. I like.
Mm.
So where I talk about the slow tracks on this one, or the slower tracks being my favourites, if we jump back to Pablo Honey, the one that you have heard, I think the thing that I liked about that is was the kind of more frantic, energetic songs.
Yeah.
Yeah, whereas here, and maybe that's to do with the subject matter. You know, like there's a lot of heavy subjects in here that I think are delivered to us very cleverly, smartly, and the way that it's sung very beautifully. And I think it was an important album for me in my, I'm going to say musical education. That sounds a bit wankery, but like really my musical education, you know, like I think without albums like this at the time that this come out, who knows what I'd be listening to now. My route could have gone very differently.
Yeah.
And I think it opened my mind to not just in music, but probably in everything of maybe not shying away from something that had something to say. Whereas
Yeah.
the age I was when it came out, I think probably I was leaning a little bit more to, well, where's me bloody explosions? If I was going to go and watch a movie, I wanted to see a Terminator kill someone. I probably wouldn't have gone and seen something that was up for an Oscar at the time.
Yeah.
Whereas, yeah, it kind of opened my mind to music being more than just I'm going to say like base emotions, you know,
Mm.
and I'm not going to give all credit to this because there were lots of other bands and lots of other music that was doing this for me at the time. I mean, certainly we've talked about it on some of the other shows. Um, some of the stuff that was happening in the hip hop world, especially things like Public Enemy, that very much changed my view of the world and my view of what music can be there for. And that's not to say that every song has to have an important message. Sometimes music is fun. Sometimes music is you're feeling sad and you want something to either perk you up a little bit or to almost sit with that sadness. Sometimes you're angry and you just want something that
Is
eggs that
equally as
anger
angry.
away, but yeah, but by being angry, yeah, exactly that. But this being a very important strand to go, I also want stuff with substance. When we do the Ramstein albums, I think I do very much, other than when we get a bit of umpapa, I do lean a lot more heavily into those songs where I think there's either a social message there or just beautifully smart writing. Like in some of the stories they tell, I think it's like beautifully
Mm.
put together, very well crafted, and sometimes expectation subverting because of that. And this album kind of starts me on that path, and this song specifically. So you look at kind of for me the passages you go through. Now I said there's stuff that sounds quite Pablo Honey in here to me. There's stuff that starts to sound a little bit like what we're going to get in OK Computer, and there's some stuff that kind of feels like they were working through some stuff which you don't get that sound again ever, or
Mm.
not for a long time if you do. Uh, but the the themes in here are very consistent along the way, aren't they? They're about dealing with fame, dealing with the pressures that come with achieving something probably unexpected, and then the insular nature of when you go inside yourself and you're struggling with this. How do you find coping mechanisms? And what I really love about this and Street Spirit specifically is what a way to end an album. What a way to end that journey. So you've gone through this. You've gone through this journey of the things that they're going through. And I'll go back to those last couple of lines again. You know, almost for me, that's the cap off of the album where you go, but after all this, you know, there is a path. Immerse yourself in love because love, I want to say love conquers all. I don't go bullshitty like that, but love is there and that's something that we can all feel and it's a positive feeling. So
Mm.
let's try and aim for that.
Yeah, I will say that that's the one thing that this album does do very well is the track placement and flow
Yeah.
for how it goes. 'Cause obviously, that starts with it's a sort of weird Aggie, but not Aggie sort of start, and
Yeah,
then sort of calms down. Then you get Aggie in the middle, and then
yeah,
it sort of brings you back in. And as you said, it gets deep as fuck in those last couple of songs
yeah.
with what they're
There's
saying. But
there's a bit of an emotional journey there, isn't it? And I'm not
yeah,
saying like it's totally kind of scripted as we bring you up, we take you down, we bring you up, we take you down. But I think, yeah, like as you described there, I think it fluctuates in a way that I think is even meant to a degree, speak to some of the emotions that they're talking about. How you might be angry, and then you might be calm, and then you might be, oh, I'm gonna go with sulky, but sullen,
mm.
but actually then you might then flip back into kind of a bit more of an aggressive feeling or an aggressive nature. But yeah, a really well put together album for me.
So yes, obviously I will take it up now that we've done all the shows. I can actually sit and live with it for a bit, and obviously when we come back for the next Radiohead, whenever that will be,
Soon,
obviously I can sort of go with
coming soon.
how or if it changed after going in cold into each song and
Well,
living
and
with
and
them for
and
a
you
little
are
bit.
right. Living, we've done this on other tracks. Sometimes when you live with a song for a bit longer, and it can go either way, can't it? Sometimes it can go up, sometimes it can go down. I do tend to find living with a song for longer tends to make me enjoy it more rather than less. But I mean, I go contextually to kind of when we went down here. I think coming into this, you weren't keen. I feel like you're not as unkeen anymore. And I'm hoping that, and it's only my opinion, but I'm hoping for context. If I'm saying that this is their worst album, I'm hoping that that gives you hopefully some positivity for what is to come. Of going, well, if this is what you're saying is
Mm.
the weakest one of it, then hopefully it only gets better from here. And
I'm
also,
just
it's the one I
hoping more.
thought, and it's the album I thought you'd like the least as well. Going into it, this is the one that I thought you'd like the least.
Yeah, I'm hoping more. That they keep the heavier songs in there. Obviously, I would imagine, obviously, hearing bits that I have heard from the rest of like singles and stuff through the time, that I know that the singles aren't heavy, but I'm hoping that there's some hidden album tracks in there that still keep that
It, it
heaviness
it's
in
weird
them.
because I was very much albuming at this point, and certainly when we get to OK Computer, and I couldn't really tell you other than probably two tracks from that album what was a single. Because I think I was just listening to the album, but yeah, so it'll be quite interesting to kind of when we get to it for me to kind of learn what actually did come out as a single, and as we go further through the albums, um, there's some interesting stuff. So when you say, for example, and little spoiler for going ahead, we are going to hit an album where there's no singles. So that will hopefully be a brand new experience for you because
It
you
will be.
probably won't have heard them anywhere else. But potentially it's still got radio play. But to kind of cap this off and to talk about where we go next, and to put hyperbole in it and to give you a chance to be bitterly disappointed. The next album is not only my favourite Radiohead album, but as far as I'm concerned, the greatest album ever written.
We're not doing Slayer Rain and
No,
Blood,
you're right. We're not doing Slayer Radio
which
Blood
is
because we're doing the greatest
which is
album
the
ever written.
greatest album of all time.
But it isn't.
Obviously
Whatever
not
you think of
Slayer.
where we go next, at least that's in the discussion. Whereas, other than you, I've never heard anyone put Slayer Rain of Blood in the discussion for greatest album ever written.
It's me.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, yeah, I know that's kind of burying the lead, but yeah, it is my favorite album of all time, and for me, I think the greatest album ever made.
So, at some point in the near future, we'll be back doing OK
Yeah, we've
Computer.
got some other stuff to get to first. We've got like another Love Bites album. We've got we'll have another Ramstein album. We will
Oh, we
have
won't have a Ramstein album. We will have the Ramstein
Sorry.
couple of stuff from greatest hits and
Yep.
the
Sorry. Yep.
random single,
Yep.
and then
Yes.
we'll then be back into play with everything else before we then go into
And we'll be hitting up in between those viewer
the list.
suggestions. So yep. So feel free to love stuff in. And you might not get it very quickly because the list is long, but you'll get it. We promise.
We will. So, as always, YouTube things like subscribing, bells, comments down there, and until next time, goodbye.